Emotional waves are something that we all have to deal with, regardless of how we are designed. If you have a defined emotional solar plexus, you'll be experiencing one or more of these waves on a consistent basis. And if your solar plexus is undefined, you'll be taking in these waves from your environment, from other people you're in relationship with, people that surround you, as well as through planetary transits. When you don't understand how your emotional wave works, or you're unaware when you are amplifying somebody else's wave, this can lead to bad decisions. It can negatively impact your relationships, both personal and professional, and it can result in all around chaos. Understanding how your emotional waves and the waves of the people around you work is an essential part of emotional intelligence in life and in business. In today's episode, I cover the 3 emotional waves, how to know which one or several you have, how to know which ones one of your loved ones may have, and how to navigate these waves into emotional intelligence and wisdom in life and business. Welcome to Heart-Centered Human Design, Emotional Intelligence and Conscious Business, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs that want meaningful success and work-life balance so they can wake up every day feeling empowered, inspired, and supported by work and life. I'm your host, Vanessa Naja, human design mentor and coach, and I am so excited to share this incredible system with you so that you can thrive in your career, in your relationships, and in your life. At the end of the episode, if you're ready to really step into the high expression of your human design emotional intelligence, I'll share with you how we can do that in my program, Emotional Intelligence by Design. So the emotional solar plexus. This is such a complex center that is under incredible change. I've already done numerous episodes about the solar plexus in all of its different ways that it can show up, and I will link those in the show notes if you want to check those out as well. Now remember, we all have emotions. It does not matter if your solar plexus is defined or undefined, you're going to be experiencing your own emotions. We have those reactive emotions when something amazing happens and we feel really good and excited about it. And when something really sad or terrible happens and we're really upset, that's going to happen for all of us no matter how we are defined. Now, what is different here is if you are emotionally defined, meaning your solar plexus, which is the triangle on the right side of the chart, facing left, if that is colored in your chart and you have emotional authority, you have a defined emotional solar plexus. Anybody with a defined solar plexus has emotional authority, and this is about 53% of the population. So even if you don't have it, you are definitely surrounded by a lot of people that do. Now, when you have a defined solar plexus, you are going to have one of these waves, potentially 2 or even all 3 that I'm about to share with you. And these waves are constantly moving regardless of what is happening on the outside. So sometimes you might be feeling up, sometimes you might be feeling down, and there's not necessarily a reason for this. There are some ways that these will get triggered, and I'll cover that in the episode, but that wave is always moving regardless of what's happening on the outside. Now, if your solar plexus is undefined, meaning you have some other authority other than emotional authority, and your solar plexus will not be colored in your chart, you're going to be picking up and amplifying these emotional waves from other people. You're very emotionally sensitive and empathic, and you feel other people's emotional waves in your body. You can also create emotional waves when there is certain transit happening, and you can create waves with other people. So even 2 people that are emotionally undefined, if they have specific gates that connect to each other, they can create an emotional wave together. So understanding how this works is really important to really step into the highest expression of your emotional intelligence. Remember, if you have emotional authority, that means you are not meant to make decisions that are emotionally based, and you want to wait out your emotional wave until you get to a point of clarity or neutrality around the decision that you're making. And clarity and neutrality means you don't have any predominant emotions around that decision. You're not necessarily super excited over the top about the decision. You're also not scared or anxious about it. You've just gotten to this place where you feel fairly clear, like calm water about the decision that you're contemplating. If you're emotionally undefined, you're going to have some other decision-making style. You do want to be really careful that you are not letting the emotional waves of others influence your decision-making, and really get into a place where you can rely on your own inner authority to make your decisions without the influence of outside emotions affecting what you decide. So we're going to start with the source wave. This is the channel 59.6. And if you're looking at your chart, remember the solar plexus is on the right side. I will show this if you're watching the video version of this. The solar plexus is the triangle on the right side facing left, and the 59.6 runs from the sacral center, which is the square second from bottom, to the solar plexus. This is technically a tribal channel, and this is referred to as the source wave. This channel is all about intimacy and creativity and creating something new. This can be projects, this can be babies, but it's about creating something new with somebody else. And this wave is generally fairly calm. If this is your only wave, you might not feel like you're an emotionally defined person because overall you are generally fairly calm, fairly neutral person, but this wave will be brought to the surface by other people and by your relationships. Now, an interesting thing about this wave is that it can really influence other people's emotional waves in emotional situations. So, for example, you might be in a situation where things are really tense and people are really at odds with each other. And if you're in the high expression of this wave, you can really bring that emotional intensity down. The converse is also true. You can really ratchet up emotional situations when you are operating in the low expression of this wave. So just being aware of what's going around you emotionally, coming into that centered place so that you can use your gift of having the source wave to really positively impact the emotional situations around you. Now we'll move into the tribal wave. You know that you have the tribal wave if you have either channel 3740, and this one runs from the solar plexus to the will center, and the will center is that little triangle a little bit off towards the right in the chart, or 1949, which runs from the root center, the square at the very bottom, to the solar plexus. The tribal wave is very concerned with relationships, the tribe. It is very sensitive to needs. It's also sensitive to touch. So a lot of times people that have the tribal wave really enjoy physical touch, hugs, hand holding, that type of thing. The way this wave works is that it ratchets up over time and then it explodes. The way the ratcheting happens is that something happens in your relationships, like some little annoying thing that you don't like. And every time it happens, like it ratchets your wave up a little bit. And eventually you get to a point where the smallest little thing related to that just leads into this massive explosion. And these explosions can be so destructive. And I know because I have this particular wave. It can be absolutely devastating. And when I was younger, this always came up with my mom and my sister, and I would throw things, I would break things, I would say horrible things. Like it was like the explosion was absolutely massive. So understanding your tribal wave, if you have it, anticipating the explosions, also looking back over time, like where have you seen this show up? You can think a parent who wants their children to, the children might have regular specific chores that they're supposed to do. And every day that they don't do those chores, the parent's wave just ratchets up, ratchets up, ratchets up. And rather than communicate about it, say, hey, can you do your chores, the thing that you're committed to doing? The parent might not say anything because they think like, well, they should know this is their chore. I shouldn't have to say anything. And eventually gets to that point of explosion. So it is really important to communicate when you're noticing those little things that are ratcheting your wave, to really communicate about what is bothering you. Speak to your partner, speak to your children, speak to your business colleagues, whatever that may be, so that you can really calm that wave. And also understanding you're going to have those explosions, being able to anticipate them, and then being in the right environment. So for me personally, at this point in my life, I absolutely know when an explosion is coming. and I go off and I am by myself and I allow myself to have that explosion. If I need to scream into a pillow or just, stomp my feet, like I let myself do whatever I need to do, knowing, okay, this is my explosion. I'm not going to affect other people with it. And then once it's done, this wave resets and things go back to normal. Now you want to be really careful because especially if you're unaware of this, like you might have this massive explosion and then you feel fine, but the people around you that you exploded on are not fine. Like there is collateral damage. So understanding how this wave works is really important. Also, when you are in an explosion or when that wave is really crashing, it can be super helpful to have physical touch with somebody that did not activate or trigger your wave. Hugs, hand holding, like that type of thing can be really beneficial. Even hugging a teddy bear, like that can really help in that crash of the wave. It has to be the right person though. The individual wave. This one is all about passion, creativity. It can be extremely moody. It is melancholic. This is, music, poetry, romance. You can think about the tortured artist here. And you have this wave if you have either the channel 3955, which runs from the root center, the square at the bottom of the chart, up to the solar plexus, or channel 1222, which runs from the solar plexus up to the throat center, which is the square that is right in the throat area of the chart. It's the third from the top. Now, people that have this wave can be very moody. There's a lot of creativity here. Individuality is very mutative. They're here to bring change. And there is also melancholy inherent in any individual gate. So naturally, there is a lot of melancholy potential in having the individual wave. Now, generally, the way that this wave moves, it can be pretty flat, and then out of nowhere, it spikes up into like a really great mood just for a little while, and then it goes back to flat, and then out of nowhere, it just dips down into like melancholy and depression and sadness, and then it comes back up. Now, like anything with individuality, this is very unpredictable. There's not necessarily a specific rhythm or pattern to when the ups and downs come, and they tend to be pretty fast. So one of my nieces has this wave. She has a 1222, and it's actually fascinating to watch because she'll be fine. Everything is great. And then out of nowhere, she'll be super hyper and really excited and just, And that can last, 10, 15 minutes. And then she's back to normal. And then out of nowhere, she's just crying and things are terrible. And she's so upset. And that doesn't last very long. And then she's back to normal. Because this is such creative energy, when you're in the lows of your wave, there's actually really potential for so much creativity to come through. It's a fantastic time to engage in your creative projects. And you may not necessarily feel like it. You kind of want to feel your way into it. But it's a great time to be really creative. And then when you're at the top of the wave, to release that creativity out into the world. With the individual wave, it's important to understand when you're in the mood to be alone and when you're in the mood to be with others. And if you are really in that low part of your wave, you might feel your best just being alone and communicating this to your loved ones so they don't take it personally. Helping them understand how your wave works can be super beneficial here. The other thing with individuality and the individual wave, it is very acoustic. So sound can be very soothing. Listening to music, playing music, dancing, doing things that involve music can be really beneficial to help manage and navigate the individual wave. And that brings us to our last wave, which is the abstract or the collective wave. And you'll know you have this wave if you have either channel 4130, which runs from the root center, the square at the very bottom, to the solar plexus center, or channel 3536, which runs from the solar plexus up to the throat, that square third from the top. This wave operates on expectations and desire. There is often a desire to enter into new experiences and to have expectations of how those experiences turn out. And the way this works is there's like a slow ride up as you are going through that experience and the expectation builds and then it just plummets straight down. And that plummet, that emotional crash can happen either when expectations are not met. So that's a very common theme here. It can also happen when something ends. So for example, when you graduate university and then now what? There can't be that normal plummet and that crash of the wave after you finish something, even if it has met your expectations. Some things that you want to watch out here: people with this wave, when they're bored, they can leap into chaos. So you want to really be sure you're following your strategy and authority on what experiences you are entering into so that you don't end up in chaotic situations. And it is really important with this wave to manage your expectations and to enter into experiences for the sake of the experience, for the journey, not the destination. Because when those expectations that you have set up in your mind are not met, the crash can just be really, really hard. So remember, anything in the collective abstract circuit, which this wave is a part of, is very much about being in the experience and living through the experience, not so much about the end result of that experience. Now, it's important for anybody that has emotional definition and that experiences emotional waves to understand that the movement of the wave is normal. You are going to have crashes, and that is okay. It's really important that when you're in emotional low, to not question what is wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you. You're just experiencing a low of the wave, which is a natural part of being an emotional being. If you question what is wrong with you and you beat yourself up about it and you make yourself wrong for how you're feeling, you are just going to extend the low of the wave. When you're up on the wave, it's also important to just notice that and experience the joy, just being an observer of that experience and not try to hang on to it, because that also doesn't work. If you are emotionally undefined, remember that you can very easily be experiencing these waves in other people around you. So when you find yourself in a situation where you walk into a room filled with people and you were totally fine before you walked in, and all of a sudden you're feeling all of these emotions, you are amplifying somebody's wave. So it's really a good idea, if you feel overwhelmed with other people's emotions, to just go off into your own space. Once you're away from other people, you're in your own auric space, at least 15 feet from anybody around you, those emotions will just flow through you. And being emotionally undefined, there's so much emotional wisdom for you here, because you are able to experience all of the different ways that this emotional juiciness shows up, and you can become really wise about it. And remember, these emotions, other people's emotions, are just information for you. It's not about you. It's nothing to do with you. It's important not to try to please those people or not follow your strategy and authority because you think that your decisions will make somebody else unhappy and you don't want to feel their wave. You just want to use it as information and let it flow through you. If you're ready to dive deeper into your own emotional intelligence and stepping into the highest expression of your design in this realm, I invite you to check out my program, Emotional Intelligence by Design. You can find it at vanessanaja.com/emotional intelligence. I will also leave a link in the show notes so that you can get a better understanding of what you're in for, and I would love to work with you on your emotional wisdom. You can also check out my Instagram at @HDVanessanaja, where I post daily about emotional intelligence, conscious business, and provide practical insights and human design tips to help you live your best life. If you are watching or listening somewhere where you're able to comment, I would love to hear how this landed for you. Do you identify with your emotional wave? Do you have any questions about this? Let me know. I'd love to hear. And if you're not somewhere where you can comment, please head over to my Instagram at @HDVanessanaja. Send me a DM. I would love to hear your experience, and I would love to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of the episode, and I will see you next time.